but we're going to jump right back into the program here now, starting with a fireside with Seg, Rashid, and Nansen CEO Alex Svanevik. Please.
Welcome on stage, guys. Please come up.
Hey everyone. I'm really excited to be sitting next to the CEO of Nansen. Today we're going to talk about one exciting product that they've built in the AI realm, and then also talk about just AI generally, and also one of the products that we're building that could be potentially complementary to what they've built. So great to see you. You want to introduce quickly for anybody who hasn't heard?
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. Great to be at Sonic Summit. My name is Alex. I'm the CEO of Nansen. My background initially was in AI. I like to say I was in AI before it was cool. Back in 2010, I got my degree in AI. At Nansen, we basically help on-chain investors discover what's happening on-chain. So discover new tokens, to perform due diligence on these tokens, if you already know which token you're looking at, and to also track your portfolio. So you can track all of your holdings on-chain across any chain, including Sonic. And recently, actually last week, we released our first mobile app called Nansen AI. We released it on iOS first, so if you have an iPhone, you can go and look it up in the App Store and download it for free. And this morning, we also released it on Android. We finally managed to get through the Play Store bureaucracy at Google, and they let our app through. So very excited about that. But yeah, happy to be here and happy to talk about all things AI.
Amazing. So for those of you who aren't familiar, I mean, Nansen's been a staple of sort of the data world when it comes to blockchains for a very long time. And it's really exciting to see them. We were just chatting before this, and he mentioned that they've been using AI behind the scenes for a long time. That's why even their domain is .ai. But this is the first time really that it's come into users' hands, and now investors can use their products now that are augmented with AI to be able to extract insights that they want and other things like that. And I'll ask you to describe the product a bit more in a second. But what I wanted to ask was, because you are now sort of more investor facing, I actually used to use Nansen back in the day as an individual, just to sort of analyze trends and things like that. But I guess that is an investing use case. So what are investors saying about the AI angle that you've taken so far, and what's the feedback?
Yeah, so over the years, I think the number one feedback we've gotten on our product, despite our best efforts, is that it's hard to use, right? It's like, where do I go? Which dashboard should I look at? Which table is going to give me the most alpha? And so instead of trying to sort of incrementally improve on that, we asked ourselves, what does investing look like in 2030? And can we build a product that closely resembles that user experience today? And so the mobile app sort of bypasses all of the complexity that we have in the web app today, and it's an AI-first user experience. That means you just go in, you can start chatting with an AI agent, and the agent is equipped with literally tens of billions of transactions, from all of history, up to literally this last second in real time. And it also has your portfolio, if you want to track your portfolio with our app, in its context. So that means, we run our own evals internally for benchmarking, and you can try running queries like, which tokens are smart money buying right now, or tell me about this specific meme coin that just launched 30 minutes ago. You try to run those on ChatGPT, Claude, and so on, and you'll get very generic and unhelpful answers, despite them being incredibly useful products, generally speaking. And if you run it on Nansen, you can literally paste in like a transaction hash, and it'll tell you what's this transaction in natural language using our 500 million labeled addresses, right? So you'll get something like, this is a Rollbit user depositing 500 Tether into their Binance account. And if you ask about tokens, it knows about your personal on-chain record from investing, right? So you can say, hey, find all of the tokens that I did well on, and then look for tokens that are similar to those that I can invest in next.
That's incredible. Like, that's such a good use case. I think for those of you who've been paying attention from the previous talk, we had a discussion around context. And I think that context is really the crux of a good AI experience. And I think that what you mentioned before about your MCP, that is really enriching the model to provide the answers and the information that the user wants that you're describing, right?
Yeah, and I remember many years ago I was thinking, hey, could we train like a recurring neural network on every on-chain transaction and create effectively like our own LLM, which was a little bit naive, right? Because maybe you could do it, but the smarter approach is to create an MCP, a model context protocol, which has access to data separately, because you can't stuff literally like tens of billions of transactions into the agent's context, but you can give it tools, and you can create system prompts that make it easier for the agent to make use of those tools, and then you can run evals on the agent and its ability to make use of the tools, right? So that's the approach we've taken, and I've sort of had this idea for many years on like how can we stuff on-chain transactions into an LLM, and when MCPs showed up, that basically became the solution. And for people who maybe who are more technical and you don't want to use the mobile app, or you want to use something in addition to it where you can configure things, we also have our own MCP that you can use. So you can get a Nansen API key, you can use the MCP, plug it into your own agent, maybe some of the tooling that you guys are working on from the Sonic side as well, and you essentially give your LLM eyes on chain, right? So it's pretty exciting, and in a way, this is only the beginning. I think the next big thing for us is actually going to be, hey, okay, you can tell me what's happening on chain, but can I actually place a transaction? Can I trade through this user interface? And that's, that might be coming soon.
And so just to pull on that thread, I think the major limitation with using AI for productive purposes that actually benefit users has been being able to provide the right context to the models while also not exceeding the limitations of their, what we call the context window, which is the amount of information that they can ingest in one sort of response session. And so MCPs and these other sort of like RAG, if you've heard of this term before, retrieval augmented generation, these techniques were developed in order for models to be able to pull in or search for, in a very efficient and optimized way, the data that they need to enrich their context to be able to answer or to be able to complete a task successfully with the right context. So context is super important, but also optimizing the amount of information that the model is ingesting in order to deliver an answer or a result is also as important, because you need to balance these two things because there's limitations on how much the model can process at one time. So as saying, if you stuff the entire chain's data into the model when you're trying to get a response, it's not going to work because that's billions of tokens potentially. And most models have like a few 100,000 tokens context limit. And tokens are like, you can think of them as words, not exactly, but yeah, so that's really the fundamental principle that most AI apps that are using LLMs have to contend with. And so Spawn, which is the in-house product that Sonic is developing, had to contend with the same issue. The early access users were having trouble because a lot of the files that the system is generating have to be read, but they have to be read in an optimized fashion. So when we were taking all of the files in one request, the AI couldn't process it, or it was costing too much in tokens. And so this is a real fine balancing act that I think is interesting, that it's consistent across most AI apps that are being developed today. But yeah, I mean, yeah.
Yeah, and you said something interesting earlier, right? Because our domain is Nansen AI, but AI has mostly been in the back end for a long time, and now it's making its way to the front end, so users can actually see the agents. But the very first problem we decided to tackle with Nansen back in 2019 when we started building the company was to label addresses, right? And this sounds kind of mundane in some ways, but it's actually really hard. Like if you have an address, how do you know what entity that address belongs to? And vice versa, if you want to find out the address of a given entity, it's actually really hard to do that. So internally, we have developed what I think are the best capabilities in the world to label addresses. We have about 500 million addresses labeled across different chains. And the same people who developed the agentic methods to label addresses, because you can't label 500 million addresses manually. You have to rely on AI agents and algorithms and heuristics. The same people are the ones who built the agent that is accessible in the app. So you can even paste in like an address into the app, and it'll tell you most likely what the address is. Like this is a Binance deposit address for a given user, or this is, you know, a Uniswap pool, or it's some DeFi protocol on Sonic. There's a bunch of different things you might see, but it's literally the same people who developed our attribution, the labeling of addresses, who have built the agent that is now accessible to anyone.
Yeah, I think one thing that's super interesting there is that AI is sort of all around us, whether we directly interface with it or we indirectly interface with it. And I think the more exciting, headline-grabbing applications are the ones that you're able to directly interface with. But as was mentioned, the address labeling use case was super important. I think like super important for a data sort of processing platform to be able to provide you with information about succinctly about what the address was doing. But that was an unsexy use of AI, but it was necessary and important nonetheless. So like I think there's like different ways that AI is used, and then you have the really exciting use cases, the ones you can touch and feel, like the product that they've just launched, that are coming out. But also you have to understand that there's value in organizational AI. There's value in all these other sort of AI domains that we may not be able to directly interface with, but nonetheless there's important value generated. One thing I wanted to ask you about, specifically going back to the topic of investors, what are you seeing with respect to, I guess, appetite for AI-driven? I mean, it's sort of like people don't ask for a product necessarily all the time. Sometimes you need to tell them what they want, and then they decide, oh, actually, this is useful for me, and it solves a problem in my life. And so
Totally.
how did you...
Yeah, I mean, it's the thing, like, you know, if you just built what customers asked for, you'd build like a faster horse, right? But actually what you should give them is a car, which no one has thought of. And I do think this is the type of product that is like that, because obviously I don't think anyone actually asked us like, hey, can you go and just build a very simple mobile app where I can just talk to it? But going back to what I said earlier, you know, we thought, what does investing look like in 2030? And I think in 2030, dashboards are going to be dead. I don't think people are going to be building dashboards manually. People are crying. Yeah, it's a little bit sad. I've built a lot of dashboards in my life. But I think instead people are going to be chatting with data. You know, you're going to be either voice or text, and maybe dashboards will be created on the fly, or at least data visualizations. I don't think that they're going away, because to build confidence as an investor, you want to see things visually. And I've literally tried this workflow where I've tried to do token discovery and then invest in tokens on-chain with our MCP and our agent. And immediately you start feeling like I'm missing the price chart. Like it's uncomfortable to click buy if I haven't seen the price chart already. So when I say dashboards are dead in 2030, what I mean is I don't think we'll manually create dashboards, but you'll definitely have some kind of visualization still. But I think it looks more like, have you seen the movie Blade Runner, the original with Harrison Ford in the 80s? Hands, if you've seen Blade Runner. Okay, good. Do you remember the scene when he's interfacing with his screen and it's scrutinizing a photograph? He's investigating it. He says pan right, zoom out, you know, go to the left, zoom in, stop there, give me a printout. I think that's more like the user experience for a lot of products, including investing in 2030, I think you'll just be talking to products, and instead of saying print it out, you'll say ape in, go all in with my portfolio, and put all my savings into this meme coin. Hopefully not. But I think that's the user experience we want to create. And so instead, like I said, instead of trying to incrementally go there, we said the mobile device is basically a blank slate for us because we haven't built any mobile product before. So it's a good surface for us to experiment with on and do something totally different while keeping the web app intact. So we still have a bunch of dashboards in our web app, of course, and our users generally love them. So the thinking here is that we're basically creating this other futuristic user experience on mobile, which is, I think, a very good format for AI, because the mobile user interface, the screen is small, right? You can't just scrutinize trading view charts and things like that very well on mobile. So instead, you'll probably want to talk to it. And so I think probably next year, you'll be able to talk to Nansen with voice and also place transactions with voice. Hopefully, or probably there should be some kind of verification to make sure that I can imagine certain attacks that could take place if you did that in a naive way. But I think that'll be a much more fun way to invest as well. If you could just talk to the agent, and the agent, almost like an OTC desk, it just does all the work for you, and then you get the actual order prepared for you, and then you can either just click an approve button, or it scans your face or something like that, and you've aped into the coin.
I think what's super interesting is that the same themes keep coming up with different companies that I've spoken to that are building products, even just today. There's three major things that stick out. AI context is super important. AI for UX improvement. So the dashboards are really a form of data ingestion for the end user. So when you look at a dashboard, you're taking information in a structured format that allows you to comprehend that information better. And an evolution on the dashboards is, as was said, the speaking to an agent that makes, I guess, the friction less to ingest the data, and it gives you much more concise or condensed form of ingesting or learning about what you're trying to learn about. So context, UX, and then human in the loop. So the human in the loop aspect is to safeguard against the security issues of, for example, hallucinations being generated by the AI that then lead to actions that are undesirable, like making a transaction that you didn't really want to make, or whatever else there is. So in one of the previous panels, one of I think Joyce mentioned that you could build sort of a multi-sig structure where the AI proposes the transaction and then you have to sign off on it. So AI has done the work for example, in Nansen's case, the research and trying to propose a trade, and then the human has to sign off on it with Face ID or whatever else you have in terms of the UX you have. But these three major things, UX, context, and then the third one I think is...
Yeah. I mean, I think this is going to be super obvious in hindsight. Like in a couple of years, we'll look back and say this is the most obvious thing ever, because it's just fundamentally a better user experience. And I've tried this myself with some early prototypes to actually go through and make and place the trades agentically, right? And it's just more fun. It's a little bit like if you've used Cursor, or I think you mentioned Lovable and so on for engineering and coding. It's a very different user experience, right? It feels more fluid, it feels more fun, and I'm sure there are some engineers that are very skeptical to these tools, just like maybe traders and investors will be skeptical to these new agentic tools for trading. But overall, in my experience, it sort of lubricates the overall user experience, and it just feels more fun. And so I think potentially it's a way to open up investing and trading to a lot more people, just like how Lovable, Bolt, and so on have opened up engineering and coding to a lot more people. Like, I'm sure many of you who have used those tools are like, you know a little bit of coding, but you're not experts. And so these AI products for coding, they lubricate the process and they make it possible for you to just deliver some kind of end product. Similarly, these tools also have security things that they have to keep in mind, and we're all aware of like API key leakages and things like that from vibe coding. But I think once people start vibe trading,
I was just going to say that.
that's when people will realize that, hey, this is way more fun than like looking at all these charts and dashboards and stuff. I just want to talk to the agent, and it's way more fun.
Yeah, and everyone in this industry is a gambler anyway, so I think it would be quite fun. It's like sort of on Cursor, if anybody's used Cursor before, you used to have a mode called YOLO mode.
YOLO.
Where usually you would accept changes that Cursor makes, but YOLO mode, you just allow it to do whatever it wants. So if you filled up a wallet with like $100 and just let Nansen vibe trade
I
for you.
may or may not have already tried that. Yes.
So yeah, I mean, it could be a lot of fun. AI is sexy, AI is fun. So I think products incorporating it heavily in a way that's actually useful and not just in name, I think those are really going to be really special products that last the hype cycle. So thank you so much. It's been a great pleasure talking to you.
Thank you.
Yeah.